NXT concluded this week with the eventual winner being announced as Kaval, and indeed not a huge surprise there. I thought that guy has some huge potential. Put him in that colourful suit, sell him as Rey Mysterio, and indeed they picked the right guy.
Yeah, they're going to need a new Mysterio, and funny how you say that, I was thinking the same thing. If Mysterio bows out, which there's a couple of rumours flying around that he might do, Kaval, I think, would definitely appeal to, I think, fans of Rey and the young kiddies and whatnot. Maybe because he's kind of a small guy like Rey, and maybe because he's got some crazy kind of ring attire. But I think he's got the voice to appeal to the kids. It's kind of strict and stern, so I'm sure they would listen when he speaks. And bar that, some decent enough entrance music, and Bob's your uncle.
You have to wonder TNA now, what they're thinking. Now we know Low-Key, Senshi, whatever he went by, apparently left the company, I heard, in good enough stead, but certainly not great. And indeed I think his removal from the roster there was probably the best thing that could ever happen to him. Look at where he is now. He's on top and getting probably a good babyface push. Now, will it end up being a SmackDown push? Quite possibly, but I think there should be some room made for him up on Raw.
Yeah, I'm loving the NXT buzz with tying the internet and the indies and all that into it, and the commentary and the kind of shoot promos. It's good stuff.
What a way to end NXT this week with, again, announcements of the winner with the former NXT Season 2 competitors. Guys like Lucky Cannon, who of course suffered and got eliminated. Well, they went crazy this week. It looked like another NXT Nexus beatdown angle taking place, with those guys getting busy and taking out Kaval.
This is it. This is exactly... yeah, I mean, what was the deal? They're not, they can't give us Nexus 2. I mean, please, God, we can't. I mean, it was such a head fuck in a sense that I don't think even Alex Riley knew what was going on, because at one stage he fired Perry Saturn. What's the dude's name?
Yeah. Percy Watson.
Percy Watson. You see, that's what happens when you got two brothers that look quite alike. But what's his face? Percy Watson, Alex Riley took him to the outside and was putting the beat down, only to be counted about 2.5 minutes later when they were all putting the beat down on Kaval and whatnot. So yeah, I don't know, I think the whole thing was a complete mess, and we can't, it's just, they could have done so much, but they choose to Nexus 2 it up, and I mean, we can't have another Nexus, really.
We originally asked this question, didn't we? What was going to happen to these guys when they finished up their run on NXT? It looked like they've decided to do the exact same thing and make these guys aggressors and be bitter and jealous. I suppose the formula worked first time, and maybe they're just deciding to stick to it. Indeed, if NXT isn't going to be on at least Sci-Fi at the moment, they're probably a little bit maybe unsure about the direction of the program and about what they're going to do with it. Of course, it was announced on NXT this week that Season 3, which will begin coming up this week on Sci-Fi, still for the moment, an all Divas season of the program. Now, interestingly enough, a couple of weeks ago, before that lineup was announced, yes, we thought guys were going to be involved, but in actual fact, we predicted Naomi Knight and AJ Lee were going to be involved. Not only that, we were calling for more screen time for Jamie Keys.
And we got all of those three things, plus a whole bunch more. And some interesting characters and talent called up for Season 3, including 6'9". That's quite tall for a lady. Diva, and a new signing that apparently, quote unquote, was just released too.
Big disappointment. I think the high spot of the show this past Tuesday, is it? At least live, was the reveal of Aloja and this 6'9", really just some sort of woman wrestler I've never seen before. I really can't remember too many of them that were that tall. We're talking about El Gigante size here, and indeed a lot of marking out as well on commentary on that show for that girl. But like you say, some reason has led to this performer's release, and it looks like now we're not going to have Vicky Guerrero and Aloja. Was this a full firing? You're done?
It was, yeah. It was. I think it was maybe a Twitter firing or something like that. But work, I think, would definitely be another word I'd put in there. So I'm sure halfway through season 3 or towards the end we might get some sort of run-in by Aloja, which would be good TV, I think.
Maybe there was something that happened backstage. Maybe she didn't shake hands with another diva. Something happened and she's gone. And I think it's a huge disappointment. Just purely to, look into the future and to see those great Kali, Aloja angles, to see all those things happening. And now, no, we're not ever going to see them. Big disappointment. And I think, yeah, that for me would have been perfect in terms of bringing women's wrestling on in that company. How you have her and then Tamina, and yeah, it's not good. But there you go. It happens, and it happens like that in FCW. They're in, they're out. You never know how long they're going to be there.
Yeah, it is. It's like a production line these days, and some saying that she wasn't really ready, and she's been sent back down to FCW. But the strange thing about it is, if you look at the background of most of season 3 and where they've come from, not many of them are actual wrestlers. I think maybe AJ Lee was one, and I think that 6'9" Aloja being the other one, right?
That's right. AJ Lee is somebody who we've always put over right back to the very beginning here on WrestleDope. We saw the matches in FCW, and immediately you could see somebody who could work well. Somebody who would be very easily, in a couple of years' time, with some more experience, a new Melina, a new Mickie James. Again, it's promising that they're at least concentrating on divas, and indeed I always hoped that AJ Lee would make it up. Now, there was some talk that in fact she was going to be called up to SmackDown a few months ago. That never happened, but I think this is the right place for her. NXT has been a great spotlight so far for these guys.
Yeah, and it's kind of a quick build really to bypass the R-Truth and Jomo route, just straight in and straight up, and you have to sometimes step back and probably feel a little sorry for your Santinos or your Kozlovs or your Matt Hardys, definitely more so than probably both of them and the whole roster combined, when others get the big push like Justin Gabriel, and I'm sure Skip was en route before that injury. And likewise with Season 3 NXT, the big quick rise into the spotlight. And either way, I think even if they do get released and back down to FCW, and maybe released even from there, once you've been, I think, in the big picture on NXT, on the indies, I'm sure they'll be happy out.
I'm interested to see what the ratings are for this show after a few weeks of it being on. I know it's not going to be on for all that long, not as long as season 1 and 2, but this is a good trial of what a all divas show could be. Could it get ratings? And if so, then indeed put it together, because there are a lot of diva performers on the roster who maybe only get to go out on house shows, and maybe this could be an overall strategy to maybe one day getting to a show that was all divas, and indeed a new unified championship as well at that point would be nicely built for it. So who knows, if it's not a case of NXT moving to another network, perhaps we could just stay online, keep it all divas. Who knows? I think it would do big things online.
Yeah, probably would, but they'd want to have access to it from this side of the world, not just license for the States, or else it'll probably die a horrible death.
AJ Lee, of course, her pro is Primo, who reappeared on TV this week, and he looked a lot different. Maybe he's been beefing up, but not sure if it's the good muscle or the bad muscle. Indeed, I think he's going to at least get on TV, but maybe a bit better than he did in the past. Perhaps now he's less green, and at least they're deciding that he is a pro, so it's got to be some kind of put over. Not sure though about the Divas season. I mean, I don't know how happy he's going to be with that.
Yeah, well, he is probably happy that he's getting a bit of TV time, and after poor Carlito was let go, I'm sure Primo was definitely shaking in his boots too, but not for long, as he is going to be a pro on season 3, and it should be pretty interesting to see what kind of stuff he comes out with. And I think Primo's a bit of a dark horse for the roster in general, and yeah, I think that guy's capable of some good mic stuff.
I'm very happy with the Oksana Goldust combination. Again, very good use for Goldust, reminiscent of Marlena, to have a blonde on his arm coming out, and a good continuity nod of the hat, if you like. I think that's a good move. And I've talked about Oksana previously, but really in FCW she did a lot of ring announcing. I don't quite remember her doing much in the way of wrestling, so it's quite tricky to say anything really about her.
I just recall that Abraham Washington with Tony Atlas segments they used to do in FCW, and that laugh was a little tough on the ears. So if they can stay away from that, I think Oksana and Goldust is definitely a good combination.
You're right, and it brings back memories to Abraham Washington segment and Oksana's Tony. Unbelievable, really, but that's something I've forgotten about. And indeed, yeah, I mean, if they can bring something like that out in her, a little bit of humour, maybe she'll get somewhere. But like I say, I haven't seen her work, and there's usually a reason for that. I mean, if she was put on ring announcing, perhaps she's more of a looker than a worker. Of course, Jamie Keys, the former NXT ring announcer, I certainly felt last week like they gave her this extended shot. And it's funny that we did talk about these people and mention that they could be involved, but there you go. It's not rocket science, as we always say. FCW holds all the answers, I think, to the future of the product that you're going to be watching, so always interesting to check it out. And by all means, if you're in Florida, check it out, because we'd love to have the opportunity.
Yeah, I would definitely love to go to that FCW shit. It's cool, and yeah, it's enjoyable. I think it's kind of up there with the NXT show on Tuesday night as far as entertainment value goes, and just good fun and stuff you can laugh out loud to, unlike, you know, superstars or something.
Naomi Knight is another rookie. Of course, her pro will be Kelly Kelly. Now, Naomi Knight is the current FCW Women's Champion. That belt is brand new, not been there for too long. And indeed, they put her over, they put that on her, so you can imagine that there is some push behind her, and indeed ending up on NXT Season 3. Good thing for Naomi. Her and AJ have had some great matches, as far as I've heard, because I've read the reports, but I think they're going to do some great stuff. And then finally, of course, Maxine, who, to be honest, I haven't heard of before. She's got Alicia Fox as her pro.
Yeah, I'm not too familiar with her background either, but I do know one of them. I think possibly what's the Jamie
Keys, yeah.
Yeah, possibly her was. It said when I did a bit of research on all of them, just to see who was a model and who was a wrestler in their day, and I think it was her that turned out was in TNA for a bit of a stint with Kevin Nash as Brittany or something like that.
Wow.
So these things, you know, we might not know about, and yeah, interesting fact of the day, number 1.
Funny, were we watching then? Was that in our time?
It was the end of last year. Yeah, it's 2009. So
isn't it amazing how they can just redress someone and you just don't even have an inkling of that, and they can manage to do that? That interests me a lot to know. I always felt, at least in the last few weeks, that she could have done with more time on screen. She's going to get that now, and indeed looks like she can also maybe say that she's paid her dues in some way. She's been in the TNA, and I think that's dues for a lot of people, isn't it?